Supreme Authority as Elby, commander of the colony armada and first real venturer into the void of space, looked out upon the grand fleet before her. 50 massive ships, each more than 2 kilometers long, appeared as green icons on the status map. Before them, a new solar system stretched out, ripe for colonization, ripe for conquering if need be. The Salrov species needed to expand, to find new worlds to call home, and nothing would be allowed to stand in the way of their expansion.
Supreme Authority, the vanguard of the colonial armada has passed the outermost planet's orbit. Colony Arc 19 detects a primitive starship at the very edge of our sensor range, likely a sign of an inhabited system.
What an astute calculation,
Supreme Authority as Elby burbled sarcastically. She waved a tentacle dismissively at the primitive craft.
Have Arc 19 launch one vanguard on an intercept course, and don't deviate otherwise from the standard mission plan.
She did not even consider the vessel worthy of her notice. A single vanguard of the hundreds docked aboard the colony armada was only the barest fraction of the might at the Supreme Authority's command, but the craft before her was tiny, insignificant, barely 100 meters long. Any one of her 50 colony arcs would dwarf the speck of a spacecraft that just barely appeared on her scopes. The orders were relayed, and the vanguard was launched. Supreme Authority as Elby, of the mind that this would be a quick and easy suppressive action, was already focusing on her planned colonization of this star system. As protocol demanded, at least one colony arc was to be left behind in every star system the colony armada charted. If a particularly interesting or valuable target was found, it was strongly encouraged to leave behind more. Even if the entirety of the colony armada was ordered to settle down and establish a base in this star system, that meant that the Salrov race had just doubled its exploitable territory.
Arc Authority Straviel requests permission to hail the craft, Supreme Authority,
a communications liaison burbled.
Will you grant him it?
Supreme Authority as Elby was in the midst of calculating a course for her ships when the alert came. She had learned from long-ago sensor scans that this star system contained 6 worlds, 2 of which were gas giants, and 1 was in the star's habitable zone. But the presence of spacefaring life changed her calculations. Basing her strategy on standard colony armada protocol, established by Salrov scientists and military officers over a century prior, she concluded that half of the armada should investigate the habitable zone for life, while the other half refueled at the 2 gas giants. Even if there was nothing of note in the system, a base orbiting a gas giant would be useful to fuel further interstellar expeditions.
Why?
As Elby scoffed at her liaison's question.
By the look of that craft, they can't muster anything close to our level of power. Deciphering an alien language could waste many rotations. There's no sense to it unless the aliens are worth negotiating with.
She paused.
Get me on a laser channel with Arc Authority Straviel.
It was done. Over a secure laser link, as Elby explained her reasons for denying Straviel's request.
But how do we know the primitives are not worth the effort?
Asked Straviel.
It seems short-sighted to dismiss them outright.
As Elby paused, she considered it. The colony armada, she finally reasoned, had waited a century to reach this new star system. A full 100 years. In comparison to that, the weeks needed to decipher the primitive language seemed like nothing in comparison. A grain of sand on a beach, as those born on a planet would say. After 6 generations on arc ships, where the sand of a beach was too far away to even be worth thinking of, such idioms tended to fall out of use.
Very well. Have the vanguard stop at 100 kilometers from the craft and transmit the first 20 prime numbers. Follow it with a Velsinet spiral.
Mathematical concepts were universal among species. Colony Armada protocol dictated that they be used to establish a line of communication during first contact. The vanguard was a military formation, a squadron of 4 Salrov interstellar Navy attack ships, equipped and trained to obliterate the enemies of the Salrov and remove any obstacle to their exponential expansion. To use them for peaceful first contact rather than a fierce space battle was a gross misuse of colony armada resources.
Call Arc 17 forward to establish contact and deploy a show of force,
ordered the Supreme Authority.
The quicker we impress our power upon them, the easier it will be to demand concessions.
Colony Arc 17, at the Supreme Authority's orders, launched all 12 of its vanguards forward to show off the Armada's military might. 48 warships, bristling with advanced weaponry, would surely be enough to make this system's inhabitants cower in fear. If they refused to cooperate, the Armada would hopefully find itself entirely able to humble their primitive space fleet and demand an unconditional surrender from a place of absolute power. The first contact mission, while by no means swift, was a welcome relief from the boredom the Colony Armada's crews had suffered during their generations-long journey. Even travel between ships was forbidden during the flight, as a particle of space dust could easily prove deadly if it had an impact with a shuttle at relativistic speeds. Even the thick armor of the colony arcs was dented and battered after flying through clouds of interstellar dust at such speeds. The Colony Armada's scientists, after weeks of constant labor at their posts, managed to decipher the primitive species' language. The primitive vessel, calling itself Zheng-He, after a great explorer of their race, belonged to a species called humans. Large compared to Salrov, and very physically imposing. But physical strength mattered little in the age of interstellar warfare. With a brief salvo from their guns, the battleships of the Colony Armada could probably turn this human ship into an expanding cloud of space dust. Physical strength would avail them little then.
They hail from a world called Earth, Supreme Authority,
said a communications liaison.
They claim it is not in this star system.
Another interstellar species, then,
said Supreme Authority Azelby.
Impressive.
Her colony armada was the Salrov race's greatest fleet, but the prospect of warring against an interstellar species likely far more advanced than hers was one that she did not wish to become reality. These humans, if they really were interstellar, probably possessed technology far beyond any the colony armada could bring to bear. Their laboratories had not been idle, but the Salrov species on a galactic scale were like children taking their first steps. They had no desire to wage war against a race that was likely to be far more powerful than their own.
Unfortunately, Supreme Authority, Arc Authority Straviel believes they may be deceiving us in some fashion, said the liaison. They claim to have invented a method of traveling faster than light.
Why would they bluff?
Asked the Supreme Authority Azelby.
They know nothing about our intentions.
Straviel believes the dark ocean theory holds greater weight than we initially thought it did.
Supreme Authority Azelby, like most educated Salrov, dismissed the dark ocean theory as a child's ghost story. The idea that every interstellar species would only be interested in warfare was entirely absurd. Even the Salrov, merciless colonizers that they were, understood the concept of negotiation.
Additionally, Arc Authority Straviel ordered a series of scans to be taken of the human craft. None of them showed anything near the material strength required to survive an interstellar voyage. Neither does it have an apparent mothership in the system.
And this has been confirmed?
Asked Supreme Authority Azelby. She had ordered the colony armada to begin refueling at the system's gas giants 2 weeks ago, but they were still not fully refueled. Construction of a number of self-sufficient refueling bases had taken up most of their resources and time.
Well, Supreme Authority, our scouts have swept the entire star system. We found no signs of life other than this vessel. It's likely a remnant of an interstellar expedition long since past.
Why would they leave such an insignificant remnant?
The Supreme Authority asked.
It makes no sense.
Perhaps as a way to punish criminals,
the liaison suggested.
Ancient sea pirates once used similar methods, though with tiny boats or islands instead of spaceships.
The liaison, like every other crewman in the colony armada, was competent and knowledgeable in many disciplines.
As you can see, Supreme Authority, This craft is too small to hold supplies for long journeys, he said. And the faster-than-light drive they speak of is incompatible with known science. They are likely alien criminals, marooned in a desolate system as a punishment for their crimes.
Supreme Authority Azelby had to agree.
So they are most likely deceiving us. Bluffing. Why?
She paused, considering the possibilities.
Such an act belies a hostile intent.
Ark Authority Straviel suggests we board the craft to determine for certain. We have vanguards on site to begin the operation. He predicts a high probability of success, and few, if any, casualties.
The decision in the end fell to the Supreme Authority. Choices of such magnitude always did. Would she take the aggressive option or the safe one? Would she call the ship's obvious bluff, or avoid a war that might mean extinction for her kind? The colony armada awaited her fateful order.
Hail the vessel,
ordered the Supreme Authority.
We will see for ourselves if their story holds integrity.
Colony Arc 17, as ordered, aimed a laser antenna at the human ship. It connected its own laser antenna to the link.
"This is the Zhonghui," came a voice. "Who, may I ask, is speaking?"
This is Supreme Authority Azelby of the Salrov Colony Armada,
the Supreme Authority boomed.
Your reports to us indicate a level of technology entirely incompatible with our understanding of science. All known science confirms that any method of traveling faster than the speed of light is impossible. I demand to know immediately why you have claimed to possess such a method.
There was a brief pause.
We, bend space-time locally to produce a bubble where the speed of light is increased, said the Zhenghe's communications officer. It's entirely possible, well within the bounds of current physics.
Supreme Authority Azelby looked to her scientific officer.
Is it?
She knew that it was not, but she did not want to make this decision lightly.
No, Supreme Authority, he reported. The quadrant test confirmed that the speed of light can be adjusted in a medium such as water, but to change it in a vacuum is impossible.
The scientific officer pulled up a digital report of the relevant research.
And the idea that space-time can be bent like a sheet of flimsy metal or tree fabric is entirely absurd. These aliens are not only bluffing, but they take us for fools.
That settled it.
It's been confirmed, then,
said Supreme Authority Azelby.
They're bluffing. Board the craft and see why.
The decision was made. Logic dictated that it was correct. She still feared that it might have been wrong. The colony armada's ships began their assault without warning, by issuing a series of directed energy strikes meant to take out the bogey's main engine. None of them made impact.
"Status report!"
snapped Supreme Authority Azelby.
"Negative impact!"
a communications liaison reported in shock.
"Their calculations were true. The shots should have hit, but no damage visible."
Supreme Authority Azelby looked at the status map in shock. The bogey, not as primitive as it once seemed, appeared entirely intact.
"Fire a missile spread,"
she barked.
"Immediately!"
The vanguards opened fire. A salvo of guided missiles streaked toward their target. Their sensors were accurate enough to make the possibility of a miss near zero. 30 seconds remained until impact.
"Supreme Authority, we're detecting an energy surge from the bogey," the sensors officer reported. "Your orders?"
"Charge the plasma spikes for a second round."
The human ship began hailing the colony armada, querying why it had been attacked so needlessly. It received no response.
"Focus sensors on the bogey. Discharge a spike."
A beam of white-hot plasma lanced out and hit the human craft. It dissipated harmlessly against the vessel's energy shields. The colony armada's focused sensors caught it all.
"That ship is shielded?"
Supreme Authority Azelby gasped in horror. She had been wrong.
"Cease the attack!"
No vessel of the Salrov race had energy shields. No member of their fleet wished to do battle against a species that did. The Salrov missiles detonated mid-flight. Their plasma spikes cooled down. Their flagship sent a frantic hail to the human craft. The Supreme Authority prepared to beg on the deck for forgiveness if it meant avoiding war. But it was too late. The human ship, the one that Ark Authority Straviel had wrongfully claimed was bluffing, proved incontrovertibly that it was not. It was enveloped suddenly in a massive sphere of energy that no sensor could penetrate. The Colony Armada's ships tried and failed. Then, in a flash, it was gone. Massive amounts of residual radiation were the only trace that a ship was ever there.
Mother of the universe!
Supreme Authority Azelby gasped.
Intensify scans!
They're already at their most intense,
reported her sensors officer.
We cannot intensify.
That ship is still there,
snapped the Supreme Authority.
Intensify scans!
I repeat, Supreme Authority, we cannot intensify. That ship is gone from our scopes.
They can't be gone,
snapped Supreme Authority Azelby.
Are they utilizing an active stealth apparatus?
It was a foolish question. Deep down, she knew the truth. The human starship's message had been no bluff. They had found a way to travel faster than the speed of light. They were, technologically speaking, more powerful than any entity the Salrov fleet had ever dreamed of meeting. And Supreme Authority Azelby had just declared war against them.
Mother of the universe!
She whispered solemnly, as if she were at a funeral for her beloved armada.
What the hell have I just done?
Barely 2 days passed by before the Colony Armada detected new contacts on their sensor scopes. A task force of 10 vessels, each half the size of a colony ark, all clearly of human make, all clearly armed and prepared for battle. The human task force had evidently detected them first, because all 10 of those warships had activated their antimatter drives and were burning hard toward the closest Colony Armada ark.
This is Colony Ark 39, hailing human warships,
said the ark's frantic communications liaison.
We surrender to you! I say again, we surrender to you!
The message was swiftly heard and deciphered. The human warships came to a stop merely 100 kilometers in front of the massive craft. All 12 of Ark 39's vanguards, a formidable show of force, clustered between the human fleet and their mothership. They were meant to defend the fleet, and to beat any rivals into submission should negotiations break down. Here, negotiations had clearly broken down, but not one of those Vanguard's crews believed themselves able to beat humankind into submission. They were there as a delaying action, a last stand. If the Colony Armada had to die, it would die fighting. This is UNSS Everlasting Dawn, hailing Colony Ark 39, the lead human craft transmitted. It was evidently their flagship. We accept your surrender. Power down your weapon systems and decelerate all craft you have in motion to a full and complete stop. Prepare to be boarded, and do not resist the boarding team. We are going to discuss the terms of your capitulation. The Ark Authority of Ark 37 looked to the status map in front of him. Over 2,000 Colony Armada warships were in the system. 2,000 ships of the colonial vanguards, small and weak compared to the human fleet, but incredibly strong in such vast numbers. All of them combined had more than enough firepower to turn a world's crust to molten slag. The Ark Authority shuddered to think of what powerful weapons the human race possessed. This is Ark Authority Toisil, he said with enough confidence to conceal his inner terror. I receive and confirm your message. The Colony Armada will stand down and comply. I say again, the Colony Armada will stand down and comply. The human flagship, Everlasting Dawn, sent out a shuttle to dock with Ark 37. They met no resistance. Even if the Ark's crew had wanted to resist the boarding party, they would have had a hard and bloody fight ahead of them. The Colony Armada was, as its name implied, a colonization fleet. It was a very heavily armed colonization fleet, owing to the Salrov government's militancy and their species' history of aggression, but a colonization fleet nonetheless. Their marines were meant to handle police actions and little else. Their warships were there to pacify primitive inhabitants of a new star system, and they lacked the numbers or advanced weaponry to fight and win against interstellar war fleets. They knew they would stand little chance against the human race, so they did not even bother to try. Heavy metallic footfalls rebounded through the Ark's cramped hallways. The Salrov-made corridors were wide enough to fit 3 Salrovs standing shoulder to shoulder, but only 1 human in a powered combat suit, or 2 in standard uniforms could walk in such tight compartments. Even still, it was not a comfortable fit. Colony Armada personnel parted for the humans as they walked in. Bulkheads were sealed to guide the human delegation down a preset path. Armed Marines were marshaled in case they did not wish to comply. This delegation was in Colony Armada home territory, deep in the belly of the beast. Ark Authority Twarsil, flanked by 10 Colony Armada Marines, turned to face the bridge door as it opened. The Admiral of the human fleet walked through it, flanked by only 2 bodyguards and a coterie of advisors. All combined, the human delegation took up nearly all of their half of the bridge. Ark Authority Twarsil began to wonder if he shouldn't have asked for more Marines. He also wondered if they'd even have made a difference.
Ark Authority Twarsil, the human admiral greeted him. I am Admiral Andrus Leidner. I was told you'd like to discuss terms for your fleet's capitulation.
His uniform was dark blue and lacked any visible decoration besides his elegant rank insignia. His head, like the heads of his advisors, was entirely covered by an airtight helmet with a clear faceplate. Ark Authority Twarsil knew humans breathed oxygen, as did Salrov, so he concluded that these sealed suits were likely a security precaution. Admiral Leidner was hardly a formidable specimen, and his only real strength lay in his keen intellect. He was an aging man, and he did not hide it. The Admiral had gray hair, gray eyes, and his old age had made him relatively infirm as humans went. He still dwarfed any Salrov.
Here are my terms.
And his mind, a modern soldier's greatest weapon, was as sharp as ever.
I am listening,
said Ark Authority Twarsil. He was clad in Colony Armada white, meant for visibility in black space. His command was not a warship, and he was not a soldier.
I am authorized to negotiate to a degree.
I will only negotiate terms with the highest-ranking officer in your fleet, Admiral Leidner said. Present them to me or be silent, because we will have nothing of value to talk about.
His air of hostility was frightening, especially so when one considered the powerful fleet of warships he commanded. Ark Authority Twarsil fidgeted for a moment.
Hold for a moment,
he said. Then he turned to a communications liaison.
Get me Supreme Authority Azelbi. Make it fast.
Within 30 seconds, a laser link was established with Ark 1. The face of Supreme Authority Azelbi appeared on the main screen of Ark 37's bridge.
This is Supreme Authority Azelbi,
she addressed Admiral Leidner.
I am authorized to speak for the Colony Armada. State your terms.
First, and most principally, we demand the immediate and total disarmament of the Colony Armada,
Admiral Leidner demanded.
Every one of your warships must be stripped of its weapons, and every one of your active ship-launched munitions must be disarmed or otherwise rendered inert. The United Nations Navy will be well capable of ensuring that this demand is met, whether you comply or not. Second, Admiral Leidner continued, we demand the arrest and trial of the Armada's Supreme Authority, as well as all others involved in the attack on the Zhenghe, for crimes against international law. Neither of these terms are negotiable. You will comply, or you will suffer the consequences of non-compliance.
These terms were unacceptable for the Supreme Authority. She had to think quickly.
I think there has been a misunderstanding, she clarified. I surrendered to you without a fight because there was never any need for conflict. The colony armada's initial assault, though regrettable, was based on a faulty sensor reading.
Admiral Leidner raised an eyebrow, unconvinced. A faulty sensor reading?
Yes,
said Supreme Authority Azelby. Arc Authority Straviel, having accepted that his role had already been played, sat in his chair and tried to look calm.
The colony armada systems are far lower quality than what you are used to, I'm sure, and a century of interstellar travel is never good for any vessel. Arc-17's sensors detected what they thought was an energy surge, the prelude to a plasma weapons broadside. Arc Authority Straviel, the commander of Arc-17, can attest to this.
He could. They had rehearsed this deception carefully beforehand.
He panicked, and he ordered his vanguard to open fire.
There was a brief pause. Admiral Leidner scratched his head. And do you normally allow such a flighty sort to assume command of your warships?
His concern was legitimate from our perspective,
Supreme Authority Azelby protested.
All known science at the time denied that the Zhanghe's light speed drive was possible to exist. We concluded that such a bluff was a likely sign of hostile intent.
And you took this as a sign to open fire on an unarmed exploratory craft, said Admiral Leidner, clearly unconvinced. How bad exactly is your science? Arc Authority Toisil slid a dossier over to him.
Here is a record of every relevant scientific fact we know.
Admiral Leidner took it, gave it a brief once-over, and handed it to one of his advisors.
I confirm all of the Supreme Authority's story.
To both of their credit, it was mostly true.
Communication with the Zhenghe will confirm that we prematurely detonated our missile barrage, not allowing it to impact with the ship,
said Supreme Authority Azelby.
This is because our personnel discovered the error in our scans, and I did not wish to start a shooting war, hence our bloodless surrender.
This contained a lie, but it was a very small one, and it was very well concealed in the truth.
We hailed the ship, which it will surely also confirm, to rectify the issue. If it had responded, we would have happily explained our error and made recompense for our misdeeds.
This, however, was the unvarnished truth. The colony armada wanted no hostilities with any spacefaring entity, especially not those they were unprepared to fight against. I think you misunderstand the issue, Admiral Leidner scowled. Regardless of your explanation, my terms still stand. You attacked a peaceful exploration ship, and you must face the consequences of your actions.
It was an accident,
Supreme Authority Azelby protested.
We caused you no harm. Our fleet is compliant. We only wish to continue our journey.
And you may, said Admiral Leidner. The colony armada as an entity will not be forbidden from carrying out its duties. This entire star system is free for your taking. You are free to leave if you wish, and the United Nations of Earth are well and readily prepared to open cordial relations with your government. His gray eyes scanned the room, a stern expression affixed on his visage. All we ask is that you disarm your ships, hopefully temporarily, and have your criminals stand trial. These are reasonable terms. The colony was an armada, a militarized force. Its primary purpose had always been to establish colonies in new star systems, paving the way for future Salrov expansion. But their military took up valuable space that could have been used for colonists or other equipment. Those warships, in those numbers, were brought along to serve their purpose. To subjugate those weak enough to kneel, and to annihilate those brave enough to stand.
I cannot agree to these terms,
said Supreme Authority Azelby.
How will we defend ourselves without warships?
Your colony arcs are, unless I am gravely mistaken, civilian vessels, said Admiral Leidner. All unarmed civilian craft, no matter their nationality, are under the protection of the United Nations Navy. This was a powerful defense indeed. far more powerful than the Armada's assembled vanguards. But Supreme Authority Azelbi was not actually concerned about self-defense. The Salrov were subjugators, not soldiers, not unless they found it necessary, but subjugators nonetheless, and they would find it very hard to subjugate without warships.
"And how can we trust you?"
The Supreme Authority snapped.
"You are alien to us. Your motives are alien. Your morals are alien. And you have no reason to be kind to us."
Let me solve this dilemma for you. Admiral Ladner sighed, tired of their bickering. You will trust us because you have no other choice. You are not an innocent party here, Supreme Authority. You attacked a civilian vessel without warning or hesitation. You will face the consequences of your actions.
The Salrov had always found big stick diplomacy to be an effective negotiation tactic. Now they knew how it felt to be on the receiving end of it. Supreme Authority Azelbi was silent for a very long time, contemplating her next move. She had been wrong before. She did not wish to be wrong again.
"Please allow me and my advisors some time to confer,"
she finally said.
"This decision is not to be made lightly."
Of course, Admiral Ladner smiled. Take all the time you need.
He got up and gestured to his party to leave the room. They would also be discussing their next move, though they knew the Salrov would likely listen in. The human race had met many belligerent species during their time among the stars. They had seen empires like the Salrov rise, fall, and rise again. And if the upstart primitives that had fired on the Zhenghe thought they could spy on a navy that had seen worlds set afire, well, Admiral Ladner considered them welcome to try.
They're lying,
he said over a secure communication link. His suit's built-in AI had already reported several attempts to crack it.
They realize they picked a fight they're not ready for, and they're lying to get out of it.
How do you know? One of his advisors asked.
I don't,
was his response.
Call it intuition.
He checked with his suit's AI again.
And the fact that they're trying to hack our communications right now, that is not a sign of a friendly nation.
Your orders? Another advisor asked. How do we respond?
Admiral Ladner paused. We don't, he finally said. In times like this, the best thing to do is often just to wait and see.
In the bridge of the colony arc, separated from Admiral Ladner and his men by 6 inches of solid metal, the colony armada's commanders were debating their own next move.
"Are we secure?"
Supreme Authority Azelbi asked over the laser array. She knew that there was no logical reason to fear. She knew there was no known way any entity could intercept a laser link without crossing into the path of the beam, and she also knew that all 10 of the human ships were nowhere close to crossing into that beam. Granted, just 2 weeks ago, she knew that it was impossible to travel faster than light. No one could blame her for being a little extra cautious.
"I confirm we are secure," said Arc Authority Twarsil. "Contacting Arc Authority Straviel now."
"Leave that imbecile out of this,"
the Supreme Authority snapped.
"His errors have caused enough damage to our race."
It was Straviel's misguided theory that convinced Supreme Authority Azelbi to open fire on the bogey. All the fault besides that was hers to bear alone.
"Understood,"
Arc Authority Twarsil confirmed.
"What is your assessment?"
"Without warships, our operational capabilities will be greatly decreased, as will our ability to project force. Both are vital to Salrov colonization and dominance of the galaxy at large."
She was considering the elements of this proposal aloud, working it out as she went along.
"If we are unable to repulse others from our claims, and similarly unable to defend our own assets from repulsion, our operational abilities will be severely hampered. In short,"
Azelbi concluded,
"acceptance of Admiral Ladner's terms would decimate the colony armada's operational effectiveness. We might never recover."
"And the alternative?"
asked Arc Authority Twarsil.
"War."
The Supreme Authority was afraid, and rightfully so, of the consequences a war with humanity would bring. But she had the courage to act in spite of her fear. Only logic and wisdom, those parts of the Salrov mind that had ferried them from starting fires with twigs to daring to conquer the stars, could deter her now.
War against an enemy more technologically advanced than anything we have ever seen. The colony armada will surely be hampered by capitulation. I do not deny this,
Azelby said.
But open defiance risks our utter destruction.
That is illogical, Ark Authority Toarsil protested. Defiance seems the superior course of action. We can overwhelm their fleet with sheer numbers if we must.
Neither one of them knew the true consequences this action would bring upon them. Neither one was a soldier. Neither had ever served aboard a warship. Neither had seen corpses spilling through hull breaches and into the ink. In a perfect world, such naive people would not be in command of warships. But as they both knew, this world was by no means perfect.
And you believe we can win?
Azelby scoffed.
The humans are alien, their motives alien, their industrial and technological abilities entirely unknown. How do we know they won't use their light speed drive to send 1,000 ships against us the second we open hostilities?
Ark Authority Toarsil was silent.
You don't. I don't. None of us know what this choice might mean for us.
They could be depending on us to disarm, Toarsil suggested. This disarmament would make our annihilation trivial.
Supreme Authority Azelby paused. More accurately, she hesitated.
I know that,
she hissed.
I don't know what to do.
I suggest you open an offensive, said her subordinate. Evacuate most of the armada and leave behind most of our military assets to engage and destroy the enemy. If we capture their ships relatively intact, the knowledge gained will be invaluable.
And enter into a war I very likely cannot win?
Azelby snapped.
I cannot make this decision.
Well, you can't capitulate either, said Toarsil in response. Putting ourselves totally at the mercy of an alien power, one with every reason to be hostile to us, is illogical.
I'm aware,
Azelby hissed.
I know that. Neither of these options is tempting, Ark Authority Toarsil. I know that. The question remains, which one do I take?
The last time she had made such a major decision, it had backfired horribly. Firing on the Zhenghe had been the only major act of her career, and it was the worst decision she could have made. Now, faced with a second choice of even greater importance, she felt paralyzed.
What do I do?
She was not asking him for advice. She wanted relief from the burden of leadership. The knowledge that, if the wrong path was chosen, at least it would not have been her who chose it. But Ark Authority Toarsil was not qualified to make that choice for her. He rummaged in a pocket in his suit for a moment before taking out a chance disc. On it were two sides. One was red, one was blue.
Call it,
said Toarsil, holding up the disc.
Red or blue?
Red we fight, blue we surrender,
Azelby said without hesitation. Even then, she wondered if she had made the wrong choice.
Flip it,
she ordered. Toarsil hesitated.
Flip it!
He did as she asked. The chance disc twirled in the air for an eternity before falling. Finally, it hit the command console in front of Toarsil. He leaned forward to see the results. He spoke the name of the color to Azelby. The colony armada's destiny was now forever changed.